I've never done that.
Good evening, councillors. Welcome to the ordinary meeting of the council, 23rd of June 2025. We've got a bit of a full fat agenda, so if we can keep focused to comments and keep it sharp, and we'll get out before it's dark, hopefully. And if anybody feels the heat too much, do not be afraid about getting up and going out somewhere else. It's just as warm, I suppose, but if you need to, please excuse yourself. So, if I can first of all go through my opening remarks, and what I want to do is focus on the meeting that myself and the town clerk had with the leader of DDC last Friday, Councillor Kevin Mills. So that will be the majority of what I want to cover, with a couple of tail end bits at the end. So we covered a number of topics which I'll quickly run through, and one of the key points to make is that Kevin did offer to meet on a regular basis, so I obviously took that up, and we're going to be meeting hopefully every 3 or 4 weeks for similar discussions in the future. So the first and main topic that we discussed was the local government reorganisation, and having been to a Cllr EGM on the previous day, I found out or realised what's happening to us is not devolution, it's a local government reorganisation. So there are actually 2 strands to this. The devolution is very much about the mayor being installed, so don't be fooled if you say local government reorganisation being mentioned. That's the stuff that's going to impact around assets, etc. So we talked about the potential for transferring assets from DDC to STC, and we also touched on the importance of the Jubilee Centre to the residents of Sandwich, which Kevin agreed. He was certainly willing to hold a discussion on the transfer of assets and offered to set up a meeting with the relevant officers in DDC once we have agreed our proposal. How we do that, we're going to be covering at the Finance and General Purposes Committee meeting this Wednesday. Linked to this, Cllr have issued a survey to parish councils on the reorganisation. The town clerk will be sending this out to councillors to invite their comments back that can then be discussed at F&GP to formulate a response, and that will be coming out via email. So in terms of the detail of the discussion on the reorganisation, I will present that to the F&GP on Wednesday, but not surprising, some of the themes that we've already picked up on, like things that are revenue streams for DDC are highly unlikely to be passed downwards. There is no expectation at the moment in terms of money coming with any assets that we take. So if you take any assets, we have to work out how we're going to make it affordable to us. But in terms of the specifics, and I know that Councillor Anderson for Jubilee Centre will be at the F&GP on Wednesday, so I'll go into the detail then. Okay. We discussed the parking strategy and the proposal to increase the fees for parking in Sandwich. Kevin said that he didn't want to rush this, and that the DDC Cabinet will take its time to reconsider the strategy. I have a request already lodged to meet with the relevant portfolio holder, which is Councillor Lynn Wright, and that will happen before the strategy is discussed at the Cabinet. We talked about the Fellowship Walk and the lines. No significant developments to report, except that DDC Planning continued to have discussions with the owner of the lines on his plans to renovate the property. We discussed the wooden bridge along the mill wall, and Kevin agreed to check the status of the works required. He understands why we were unable to contribute to the cost of replacing the bridge, which led to a broader conversation we had, an explanation from ourselves about how the town council's finances and those of the STBF are organised. I think this helps to myth bust some of the perceptions that he and maybe other colleagues have in DDC about Sandwich being cash rich. The final topic was the recent flooding, which I've also exchanged messages with Councillor Evans on, and hopefully I'll get a chance to speak to him about that at the end. Just one specific item we discussed, there was a DDC tenant living in Sandwich who had been flooded overnight because of a storm, and she had mentioned that she hadn't had a meaningful response from DDC, and fair dues to Kevin, he said he would see what he could do, and within 2 hours that person had a visit from a housing officer and a housing inspector, and a lot of things I believe are now in train to help that person. And then just a couple of final things to move on before we go into the main agenda. I want to thank the Town Clerk and her team for making the Great Big Green Week such a success. Particular shout out to Lindsay for all the work she did on that, and to those councillors who got involved. Councillor Fortescue certainly played his part with his litter picker. I spotted him in town. And today's raising of the flag for the Armed Forces Day also went really well, and I think a lot of that was down to the organisation internally in terms of making it run smoothly. This Sunday, the sees the return of Little Gardens of Sandwich. I'll be attending to open the event, but it's a great opportunity for us all to take a peek behind the walls of some of the properties in our town and to have a walk around the lovely gardens. Having been to the Rectory Gardens this weekend for the first time, it's an amazing garden. I was very surprised, but speaking to Father Sebastian, he and Reese have put a lot of effort into it over the last year or so. Okay, that's it in terms of the introductions from me. Do we have any apologies from any councillors?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So we have Councillor Paul Carter will be late due to personal commitment.
Thank you very much. On to agenda item 3, declarations of interest. To receive any declarations of disposable pecuniary interest from members in respect of business to be transacted on the agenda. Does anybody? Councillor?
Item 20. I'm as a trustee of the Sandwich Heritage Harbour Trust. I declare an interest in that item.
Thank you very much, Councillor Gray.
And Councillor Franklin.
Oh, and Councillor Franklin, of course, as well. Councillor Moorhouse.
Yeah, item 13, Mr. Mayor, as chair of the Sandwich Community Events Association. I will remain within the meeting. I will not vote. I will only comment if I feel there's something pertinent that I can add to the debate.
Thank you very much. And Councillor Green.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have 3. I'm a busy boy at the moment. So item number 5, payments. We've got a payment schedule. I won't be voting on that one. Item 11, I'm the named councillor on that item on the agenda, so I won't be voting or speaking on that one. And item 13, the same as Councillor Moorhouse, I'm the Sandwich Town Council representative for the Lights Committee. I will be speaking as Councillor Moorhouse just said, but I won't be voting on the item.
Thank you very much.
I'd better say the same again for item 13 with regard to the Christmas lights.
Okay. Thank you very much. That's it. Okay, moving on to agenda item 4, minutes of the full council meeting and committees. The first one is to approve the minutes of the ordinary meeting of STC held on the 2nd of June 2025 and to consider any matters arising from those minutes not covered elsewhere in the agenda. Does anybody have any comments on those minutes? And if not, would somebody be happy to propose them? Councillor, have any comments?
Yeah, I've got comments on STC 0625.12 on the Human Resources, on the heading Human Resources Committee membership. Here I have said, I just want to ask a question. How was the committee member chosen? Have any of the committee member had professional qualification? And have anybody had line management? I'll just ask a question.
Right, so there are 3 questions there. So it was done in the same way with all the other committees.
Yeah.
So open house for people to have their names put forward as happened.
Yes.
And then a vote was undertaken, if I recall rightly. And those with the high scores were chosen, so that was a committee vote.
Okay, yes.
In terms of experience, well,
Yes.
I know a number of people had the opportunity to hand in their which we call it a CV, it wasn't
Yeah.
CV, but a list of things.
Yes.
And that was all, I assume, taken into account by all those that voted in the meeting, and we ended up with those that we ended up with. And professional qualifications in what sense?
HR, pure personal management.
Okay.
I'm just interested committee member who has.
Councillor
any-
Black.
Yes, I was a member of the CIPD before I retired, and I was a fellow.
Oh. So have you done any management, anybody got management, line manager? for
I
that
think in
position?
terms, so we probably don't need to get down to that
No, no, no,
granularity
just
detail, but in
ask
terms of the members,
Yeah.
I believe the vast majority do have line management, and some of us have extensive line management and extensive recruitment
Yeah, that's why,
expertise.
because part of my reason I asked this question is just because we've got two quite
We
major
have.
road to recruit, that's
We
why.
have,
Okay,
yes.
I think.
Yeah, I think we, Councillor Franklin.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I believe I was present at that meeting, because I
Yes, you
went further in the minutes, but it's not on
That was the STC meeting, yes?
the, yeah.
2nd of June, full council.
Should make sure you're added.
That's all right. It's sort of funny though, isn't it? I'm not there now.
Okay,
Yes.
so is that satisfactory?
That's fine, yeah, yes.
Thank you very much. Is somebody happy to propose those minutes? Councillor Moorhouse and Councillor Green to second, and a vote. And Green.
I was in a
Yes,
meeting.
one abstention. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Two, so.
Two, thank you.
Second one, which is attachment 2 in the pack, to receive the minutes of the planning committee meeting held on the 19th of May. Any comments? If not, somebody have to propose. Councillor Franklin is proposing. Councillor Barnes is seconding, and we go to vote on that. From me. Two abstentions. Three abstentions.
Or is it three? Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was at the TC meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. To receive the minutes of the Finance and General Purposes Committee meeting held on the 28th of May. Any comments? Proposer? Councillor Green? Seconder?
I'll second.
Thank you, Councillor Anderson. And the vote?
One, two, three, four, five, six, 7 abstentions.
Next one is to receive the minutes of the Human Resources Committee meeting held on the 28th of April 2025. Any comments?
24th.
Oh, it's 28th. Is it on the 28th or 24th?
24th.
Oh, sorry, that's a typo.
Okay, so the 24th.
Yeah, 24.
Okay. Any comments?
I
Yes,
understand that, I've got it.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not to do with the minutes, I want to mention the HR committee minutes on the 28th of April, it's not actually here, but it was agreed to make the property manager permanent. Has this happened? If not, what?
Yes, it happened at the last meeting.
It's happened.
Yeah.
That's all.
Okay. Somebody have to propose those? Councillor Black. Seconding Councillor maybe Franklin, but I'm not sure. It's halfway.
I'm abstaining.
You're abstaining.
Sorry.
Okay, we have to. I'll second it.
Thank you.
And the vote? And Green again.
How many abstentions? 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 8 abstentions.
Okay, and finally, to receive the minutes of the Monks Hall Nature Reserve Committee meeting held on the 3rd of March 2025. If there's no comments, Councillor Franklin proposing them. And seconding Councillor Mallet. The vote. Green. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7
7
abstentions.
abstentions.
Thank you. So moving on to agenda item 5, and that's attachment 6 in the pack, payment schedules. These were presented to F&GP on the 18th of June as a reference point. So first of all, to receive and note the payments for mid-June, those payments which are not supported by a minute reference have been authorised by officers with delegated powers of expenditure. Does anybody have any comments on payments for mid-June? No? Somebody happy to?
We discussed in the payment for the agency people, does this come under this bit?
Is
If there's an agency
Yeah.
payment
I
in
think so.
there, then you can query it.
Yeah, just the amount.
Yeah.
It's £7,000 for 1 month. I think about time we had that recruitment, we should have had a caretaker by now.
Mm-hmm.
Ridiculous, 6 months and we still look caretaker.
That's a, okay. Councillor Franklin, that's a reasonable comment, and we must take that away.
There's a lot of money in 12 months, isn't it, to go on? It's not budgeted for, is it?
We have asked for an analysis in terms of the cost versus the previous caretaker costs. I think we need to take it into the HR committee, Councillor Wiles. Yeah. Councillor Breen.
Sorry, could I just say that £7,000 relates to the RFO. It's not actually clear how many weeks, it just says a month.
Yeah.
So it's not for the caretaker, it's for the RFO.
Yeah, tomorrow's HR committee, there will be a wider discussion about the staffing. Yeah, I think it's just for the whole agency, I believe, not just the RFO, but I think the caretaker and the other chapters as well.
Thank you.
It's 3 in 1.
Taking account of that and the fact that we will be discussing that, is something to propose those minutes, the payment schedules. Councillor Breen, seconding, Councillor Black, and go to a vote. One abstention. The second one is to confirm nomination of 2 signatories to authorise end of June payment schedules on Bankline. So we have a problem at the moment with Bankline, don't we? In terms of, so who has got a working card and is available is the I suppose the criteria now. Who have we got left?
I think Councillor Auditor.
So it's a bit, I have a card, it's in a moving box somewhere in my new flat, so I have to have a look for it. The other thing is I haven't used it for over a year, so the card might be expired by now, so I'll have to check and get back to you by email.
So I'd like an action to the interim finance officer in terms of reviewing, going out to each of those people who are named, because not everyone is available and has been using it, so I think we need to make sure we've actually got enough people who are available and have a working card. I don't have a working card, it collapsed last time. I think Councillor Wiles in the same situation?
Mine works, but it's a very annoying system. Okay. Something for the I'd just like to say, I think there should be 2 permanent, always doing, because if you just do it every other month, that's what mine, I've done it for 2 months, and it always wants to change the password, then it times out. And when we had the RFO, she could get onto Bankline and she could get an email, to her mobile phone, but the people got it at the moment, it just didn't work. And it's a time sensitive thing as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. So
I think I'd like to recommend there's 2 permanent, then do it regular.
yeah, so if we get the interim finance officer to write out to all those who've got a card, if anybody's willing to put themselves forward as permanents, and then we can have that pool, if it's just the 2 that we do need 2 each month as a minimum, and then the others can be back up.
That's right, yeah.
So can I suggest that Councillor Paul was nominated for this payment, and Councillor Wiles?
I'm happy to put myself forward for training and getting a card and to be a permanent member.
It only took me 15 months to get set up. But
Very time consuming.
and then similarly for the nominations of 2 signatories to authorise mid-July payment schedules, could I propose it's the same 2 people? Yeah. Councillor Wiles is nodding just.
So
Right.
if you could vote please.
Can we vote on that?
1 abstention.
Thank you very much. Public participation, 20-minute session set aside for members of the public to make representations at the meeting in respect to the business on the agenda and other matters if time permits. Do we have any requests?
No requests.
Verbal report from our Dover District Councillor on matters relating to Sandwich. Councillor Moorhouse, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Very quickly. 57 Mill Street, first of all. At the last planning committee meeting, it was agreed that I'd go away and contact Cllr Deputy, who had indicated at a presentation that I went to on the 26th of February with regard to Archer's Low, she was willing to set up a meeting. So I'm waiting for her to come back to me because I've asked if the portfolio holder be involved in that meeting as well. Secondly, disabled access to the co-op via Winsborough Road / Moat Sol, where the parking, the Cllr site is very much faded, and it's being abused. Vehicles are parking on there, and a disabled resident of Sandwich contacted me to say that he is having difficulty accessing the co-op. I'm pleased to say that that has been referred to the relevant department and will be looked into. Still waiting for a answer on the two doctors spaces. The junction between the butchery and Harnett Street, adjacent to Breezy Corner. I was alerted this previous weekend, that there's been a fly-tipping incident adjacent to the New Street dental practice, which I'm looking into. I've contacted Parks and Open Spaces about weeds on the quay. Is that quite an appalling state? We had the food fair on Saturday, along with several boats along the quay, and the weeds really looked quite appalling. In addition to that, if anyone uses the footpath that links Stone Cross to the St Crispin in Worth, the first section between the Deal Road and where you can see the pine trees, that is extremely overgrown, and I can understand the no mow may agenda or initiative, whatever you want to call it, but we're now nearing the end of June, so it's time that was cut back. And lastly, with regard to planning application 25/00500, which is a photocopy basically of planning application 22/01341, and that is land adjacent to St George's Road. Again, helping the resident with the pricing this application.
Thank you, Councillor Moorhouse. Any questions of Councillor Moorhouse at all? Councillor Evans, thank you for coming here this evening.
Hello.
You can either talk from there or up here, whatever
No,
you prefer.
I'm fine from over
Thank
here.
you.
As you probably know, I've been on the holiday virtually the whole
Yeah.
time since the last meeting. Okay. Reference to the flooding, I had an email from someone called Malcolm Moss,
Yes.
and he took pictures of drains after they've been cleaned, because KCC sent out contractors to clear the drains, and the pictures he sent me are embarrassing. So I've sent all that off to KCC. I want it investigated straight away. Taxpayers are paying for the drains to be cleaned, and they're blatantly not being cleaned. I'll forward you on the email I sent after this. So that is one thing. Councillor Moorhouse, you sent me a brilliant email this morning that had a picture in it, which I think is probably the best picture that describes that bus stand. And a picture of an ambulance not being able to get through with the bus. So now you've sent me that picture, and now I'm back on holiday. I'll take that up as a matter of priority, okay? And I'll copy you in on all of the emails that I get back, okay? A few more little things come up. When I was away, Sandwood Road's got gas problems. It's got road works for 11 days from the 20th, so that's nearly done now. Something you might not, none of you be aware of, but it definitely affects you in Sandwich. South East and Network Rail have now gone into one, so they're part of what is going to be the new nationalised railways, and it's called Great British Railways. So if you're on a train and you go and your train's in Ashford and you're late, they should now be holding the trains, because they're the same company and they might get fined, okay? That is basically it. One other little thing, I advise you all to avoid Deal. I know it's not your area, but there's roadworks everywhere there coming up. So apart from that, that is my report, okay?
Thank you. So could I just pick up on
Yeah.
the drains? So it's not potholes this time, it's drains.
Yes.
So I got heavily involved
Yeah.
on the Saturday, the day
Yeah.
after. I visited a number of residents.
Yeah.
There are some hot spots, and I dropped you an email to that
Yeah.
effect. I know we're going to have a walk around.
Yeah.
If we can drop in a few drains within that
Yeah.
walk around, it would
Yeah.
be really helpful.
Yeah.
Because there are some that haven't been cleared for years.
Yeah.
And the consequences, some people's houses were actually flooded as a result of, certainly the drains were a significant contributor.
Well,
Last year was
I've had
extreme.
emails from Ash, Minster,
Yeah, I'm
loads
sure
and
you-
loads
I'm
of
sure you
places.
have.
I think we had about 2 inches of rain in virtually a couple of hours, wasn't
It
it?
was horrendous. It was.
Because I wasn't there, I didn't see it, but my back garden was underwater apparently. But no, I'll email you. We'll have that walk around in the next week or two,
Yeah.
and then we'll get on top of it
The
all.
bus stop as well.
And the bus stop, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other questions, Councillor?
Yeah, if I can expand upon the ambulance, at the weekend, the event, one of the stewards clocked an ambulance being stuck. Now, it wasn't an emergency call out, but if it had been,
Yeah.
it's critical moments.
Yeah.
And on the subject of ambulances and your comment about Network Rail and South East,
Yeah.
I witnessed about 3 weeks ago
Yeah.
an ambulance being stuck at the New Street level crossing.
Yeah.
Now, at 5 to 8, a train comes from Deal going towards Ramsgate via Sandwich. The journey time between Deal and Sandwich is around about 6 minutes, I believe. It's evident to me that the gates are going down around 2 minutes after the train has left Deal.
Yeah.
And then when the train eventually gets to Sandwich, there's a huge amount of school children disembarking the train.
Yeah.
And it's causing horrendous hold-ups. And there was a scene 3 weeks ago where an ambulance, which was on balloons, was stuck there for at least 5 minutes.
Okay. I'll get onto Network Rail about that. I know it's probably not. I did actually used to work for them for quite a long time, so I do know quite a lot of people. So I will try and take that up for you. Okay.
Happy to take a question from Councillor Black. Councillor Evans, you happy to take a question from Councillor Black?
Yeah.
Yeah, Councillor, you may not know, we had a situation about a year ago where all 4 level crossings here failed. The 2 automatic ones, the 2 Network Rail are persistently not responding to us. We asked them to a meeting and they're not coming.
Yeah.
I think part of the problem, Councillor Moorhouse, is the track circuitry, because they've got to, it depends how far back the track circuits go towards Deal, and I think it's a very long section, and to make sure the protective signal comes off at the station, he's got to have the barriers down a lot earlier. Like yourself, I also worked for the railway for a long time, and the problems with the track circuitry, we really need to redouble our efforts to get them here. I think they're taking the Michael.
Yeah.
The excuse last time was, oh, we're going to be so busy with this merger. Fine, I am a railwayman and I know what you've got to talk about. They're not doing it, so I will pursue it again with the Heritage and Townscape Committee as well.
And I'll pursue it as well. I used to be a manager of Victoria Station in London, funny enough, so I'm quite high up. So I will be pursuing it.
Right. And you know what I mean by the track circuitry problem.
Yeah, I know, yeah, quite a big block section, I know.
And a big block section. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just one more question, if that's okay, from Councillor Franklin.
Yeah, thank you. I think the problem is the level crossing is so close to the station. I mean, I've been at Warman, the trains overshot the station.
Yeah.
So that if the trains overshoot that station and the road's open, catastrophe. And I think that's why they always make sure that the gates are down before the train gets to the station.
Yeah.
It's just a safety issue. And it's been like that for years. Unfortunately, it's just one of those things. Otherwise, if you try and have the train stop and then do the gates, if anything goes wrong, it would be murder, wouldn't it? So I think it's just a safety issue because it's so close together. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Stay as long as you want. We've got a bit of business still to get through.
I'll stay a bit longer. Thank you.
So, agenda item 9, report from our local police representative. I can see that our police officer isn't here.
No.
Have we had any updates?
I haven't, no. She may be on annual leave. I know that she did have a period of annual leave.
Yes, she was, and she returned because I exchanged emails with her at the end of last week. She returned, so she might need a reminder regards dates.
I sent a reminder today about something else.
Fantastic. Thank you.
So, Mr. Mayor, can I just make a comment on that? Sorry, apologies. So, I understand that our PC for Sandwich is quite busy. She has to cover a lot of area. However, in the recent months, we've seen a really big decline of police presence within the town. And obviously we don't have our community warden anymore. However, he does work out of Eastleigh Rural, but he does pop into Sandwich to help with the snap pantry, etc. So it would be hopefully an idea for this council to see that what's going on. Will we have our PC? Don't we? Because I've not seen her for quite a few number of weeks now.
Okay, we will follow that up. think there might be a question at a higher level because
Yeah.
if I recall rightly, we should have got a second police officer allocated to Sandwich. That certainly was touted by our PCC as part of a pre-election pledge, but thank you very much. Agenda item 10, update from councillors. So I'll just cover a couple of things myself first before opening up to the floor. So the highlight for myself over the past few weeks, and I was accompanied by a number of councillors, was a visit to Brighton Cinque. I think we hit a perfect spot in terms of weather and driving. And thanks to Councillor Marie for acting as our driver and a very accomplished mace bearer as well. So it was a great event. So for any of those that are interested, when Brighton Cinque comes along again next year, whoever's the mayor at the time might open up the offer again, because actually I think it was actually a really good opportunity for the four of us to go together and experience it collectively. So yeah, good, it's really good. Skip that one. Yes, a calc meeting last Thursday, which I'll leave out probably to Councillor Black to maybe talk about if you're going to.
I can.
Yeah, that's fine. But it was around the devolution and the local government organisation. Linked to that, myself and the town clerk attended a meeting with the mayors of Deal and Dover Town 2 weeks ago to discuss how we might coordinate effort to engage with DDC. But I think that shouldn't stymie us from brigading our own thoughts and presenting our own arguments. If they want to run parallel with us, that would be great, but if not, we'll push on with ours. And I think that's it from me, so opening up to the floor. Councillor Allen first, and then Councillor Marie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Ripley and myself went to speak to a gentleman, Terence Dorber, who represents Ainsley Court with regard to a long-running ramp. That's alliteration almost, isn't it? Situation. And we had a very, very positive discussion with Mr. Dorber, and we have agreed to progress this as far as we can to the point of having, knowing that we can get designs, knowing that we have builders, knowing an awful lot more to the point where we can come to hopefully the council and say, this, we ticked all these boxes, we know we can do it, this is the budget, let's have some money. But obviously, we have just started on that journey. So there is an awful lot more to do, but it is ongoing. So, thank you.
Councillor Marie.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just before I quickly go through my stuff, I just want to, for brightness here, I just want to thank you for the invite and the opportunity to be your escort for the day. It was an insight for me as well for the town sergeant role, and it's been pushing me even more to get one where we do eventually, because we've got a lot to do with the HR committee. Oh yeah, and also thank you for the invite, because we've not had that before for councillors to attend certain things. And also I'll be joining you on Sunday for the Armed Forces Day stuff in Dill. To go back to it just briefly, it's Folk Canal Festival. Folk Canal Festival is in 2 weeks' time, with the first programme given to you, Mr. Mayor, last week. Only 300 programmes have been made this year, so they are limited edition. They are fantastic quality, they are looking good, and there's a few rather nice gentlemen that are in the photos, myself included. I do for that. Mr. Mayor as well. There will be a merchandise stall on the Thursday and Saturday markets leading up to the festival in 2 weeks' time, selling merchandise from t-shirts to upcycled t-shirts made into tote bags and drawstring bags, and also pin badges. You can get a deal for all of the merchandise for £20. Just to point out for the public, if they're listening to this on the cameras, the road closures in place for that weekend will be Market Street, King Street, No Name Street and Dell Street from 8 AM to 8 PM or for both Saturday and Sunday, with parking suspensions for all people, including disabled parking, in Market Street, King Street and Dell Street. Please don't park there after the times that I've just given, because you will be given a parking ticket if you're parked there. Apart from that, Neighbourhood Watch, still no report from Neighbourhood Watch Group. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Councillor Marie. Councillor Rippon.
Yes, 3 things. I went on the Sandwich and Bloom trip to Wisley, RHS Wisley, which was just fabulous. So that was a really good trip. Hopefully we can do that again. Vacancy, that was really enjoyable and very well worth going to. The other thing I want to mention is Heritage Open Days. We've got, I think it is 14 places now signed up, including the Longhouse, Thomas Paine's house, and the Chantry. Also the Medieval Centre is on board, but they're doing it as a separate entity. However, we are linking up with them to do various things, so it's all as one. What I really want to say is, please can we have some volunteers for that weekend? Because really, I know Councillor Moorhouse is signed up to that.
What weekend is that?
It's the weekend of September the 13th and the 14th. So if anybody feels that they can spare some time, either of those days or both days, if you could let me know, please, and that would be very handy. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I know you're putting a lot of effort into the Heritage Open Day, so I'm sure it was a success. Councillor Black.
Thank you. First of all, I wasn't able to attend, but I know Councillor Ripley was able to attend with the chair of the Tourism Forum to Dover Docks for the cruise. I got a report today from the chair of the tourism. There are a number of coaches now starting to come to Sandwich when cruise liners dock. We are trying to get one of their managers of the coach companies to come round with Richard and myself to have a look around Sandwich to see what we can do, and then also see what better communications we can have with shops and catering establishments. They really want to go to the Medieval Centre. That seems to be a key driver. They're pleased to see that all of our brochures and so on are up to date there. So that's the report man from the chair. Following up on what the Mayor said, the extraordinary general meeting of Cllr, there were about 200 attendees there. The room was full. Part of the problem seems to be, from the speakers, is that the government seems to come up with a slightly varied plan every week. It seems to change all the time. Some of it may be subtle, but some of it's quite significant. It would appear that the devil is in the detail, and the detail hasn't been thought through. There was a lot of criticism about parishes and town councils being completely neglected by the documentation, and others have commented upon that. There was a lot of stick given about that. I think they were trying to say that Westminster is beginning to wake up to the fact that we'll end up with a democratic deficit unless we do something better, but it hasn't been resolved yet. No disrespect to our KCC councillor, there was some concern that they're still not very sure at district level and other levels that just how KCC will be approaching this. I know you indicated before that you weren't, as a council, particularly happy about many of the proposals.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, time is marching on. So it would be very helpful if that was able to come to the fore. But I'm sure many other councils have mentioned the same thing to you and to your colleagues. There was virtually no discussion on, so far there's been no information as to how the massive debts from Kent County Council will be shared amongst the unitary authorities, and that could be a big problem as to the way that's handled. It's about 800 million at the moment, which is pretty substantial, and of course that's accumulated over the years. Now, the other big debate was how many unitary authorities should there be in Kent. I think some of the western districts were trying to say, oh no, you only need 3, but as Kevin Mills said, we're going to have sort of North Kent, West Kent and Poor Kent, which is us. So there's still a lot of pushback that we should have 4, but all this is undecided and really probably won't be very clear until, is it November?
So 28th of November is the deadline for the submissions to go in.
Yeah.
And they were expecting a small number, so not individual submissions from each district.
Not 40 submissions. So it's still a great debate as to whether it's 3 unitary authorities or 4. or something else.
Or something else.
But certainly a lot of emphasis has been, if you go for the 3, then this part of Kent really is left in the lurch. And with all the additional costs of things like unaccompanied minors coming ashore and everything else, there are far greater problems than, say, in places of West Kent. I'm sure KCC are very well aware of that as well. So that was the tenor of the meeting. I think that we're going to have another raise it at the AGM, which I think is in October. The count point, and useful if you can get any tickets. I don't know quite where we are on that, but certainly the mayor went and I went, and we're finding representatives from absolutely everywhere. It was extremely useful, and they didn't pull their punches.
Councillor Franklin.
We've got these beautiful hanging baskets now, which the Champion Bloom have done. But I think we should just send them a thank you, because I think there's only 2 ladies that actually went down Archer's Road and did them all. So I think, because I've never seen them because they're magnificent. I think that's a wonderful sight.
Thank you for that. Councillor Ripley and Councillor Moorhouse.
Yeah, just very briefly, sorry, I forgot to mention the Saturday market. Excuse me, the tourist information stall there, which some of you have come along and helped on. Sorry. But if anybody has a spare hour to spend on a Saturday morning, that would be great if you could come along and help.
Thank you. Councillor Moorhouse.
Feedback from the stewards at the weekend. We wanted to thank you for the time you took to go around and speak to them. It was very much appreciated. And the Sandwich Hopper Twin Association AGM is on Thursday the 17th of July. So yourself and any other councillors are very welcome to attend that.
Thank you. Okay, thanks a lot. Moving on to agenda item 11, which is attachment 7. We do have a vacancy on the F&GP committee, and Councillor Marie has put his name forward to be considered for it. I'd like to propose on the basis that he should be elected to it to fill the space. It's better to have someone who's willing rather than a pressed man. So I'd like to propose he does join. Councillor Ripley seconding. Let's go to the vote on that. It's unanimous. Thank you very much. One right, sorry. Thank you. Agenda item 12, Finance and Annual Governance Annual Return 2024-25. So these are the important governance activities for the council. A number of items that relate to the annual governance return for that period. Items 4 to 7 are set out in a specific order prescribed by the external auditor. But if we can go through each of them, and we should go through each of them, shall we?
Yes,
Do we need to vote on each of them?
Yes, please.
Okay, so number 1, to receive and note the Sandwich Town Council Bank Reconciliation Statement as of 31st of March 2025, income and expenditure budget and petty cash. Somebody have to propose those? Councillor Franklin and Councillor Green seconding, and the vote. Number 2, as per the financial regulations, please consider and reconfirm that staff salary payments should continue to be made by BACS. I'm happy to propose that. Pick a choice. Who's seconding? Councillor Marie. Who's highest? And vote. Yes. That's unanimous as well. Thank you. Number 3, as per the financial regulations, please consider and reconfirm that payment by variable direct debits is acceptable in relation to payments for electricity, gas, water, internet, broadband, phone charges, HR and photocopier contracts.
Proposed. Second.
Starting a fight.
Competition. Unanimous, yeah. Right, the longer one. To consider the findings of the review of the effectiveness of the system of internal controls, page 3 of the annual governance and accountability return for the year ended 31st March 2025, and a mid-year and year-end audit reports from the internal auditor. Statement of internal control to be read by the town clerk and councillors to approve.
Thank you. Sandwich Town Council's Statement of Internal Control for the year ending 31st of March 2025. Scope of responsibility. Sandwich Town Council, the council, is responsible for ensuring that its business is conducted in accordance with the law and proper standards. and that public money is safeguarded and properly accounted for and used economically, efficiently and effectively. In discharging this overall responsibility, the Council is also responsible for ensuring that there is a sound system of internal control, including the preparation of the accounting statements as required by Section 1 of the Annual Return, the Annual Governance Statement and its 9 assertions. It provides details of the methodology by which the Council affords itself protection in the day-to-day operation of its accounting procedures. The purpose of the system of internal control is designed to manage risk to a reasonable level rather to eliminate all risk of failure to achieve policies, aims and objectives. It can therefore only provide reasonable and not absolute assurance of effectiveness. The system of internal control is based on an ongoing process designed to identify and prioritise the risks to the achievement of the Council's policies, aims and objectives, to evaluate the likelihood of those risks being realised and the impact should they be realised, and to manage them efficiently, effectively and economically. The Council has in place a set of standing orders and financial regulations which set out the general rules applicable at Council and committee meetings and in carrying out the Council's business. These two documents are reviewed on a regular basis, at least annually, and influence the system of internal controls in place. The system of internal control has been in place at the Council for the year ending 31st of March 2025 and up to date with the approval of the Annual Governance Statement and accounts, and except for the details of significant internal control issues at Section 5, accords with proper practice. The internal control environment. The Council has appointed a chair, our mayor, who is responsible for the smooth running of meetings, and a town clerk for ensuring that all Council decisions are lawful. The Council reviews its obligations and objectives and approved budgets for the following year at its November meeting, and the January 2025 extraordinary meeting of the Council approved the level of the precept for the following fiscal year 2025-2026. The full Council meets a minimum 8 times each year and monitors progress against its aims and objectives at each meeting by receiving relevant reports from the Town Clerk, RFO and Property Manager. The Council carries out regular reviews of its internal controls, systems and procedures. The Council has appointed a Town Clerk to the Council who acts as the Council's advisor and proper officer. The Council has appointed a responsible financial officer who is responsible for administering the Council's finances. The Clerk is responsible for the day-to-day compliance with laws and regulations that the Council is subject to and for managing risks. The Clerk also ensures that the Council's procedures, control systems and policies are adhered to. All payments are reported to the Council for approval, and 2 members of the Council must authorise every cheque and online payment, and the direct debit arrangements are reviewed annually. All income is received and banked in the Council's name in a timely manner and reported to the Council at the next meeting. The Council is responsible for establishing and monitoring the achievements of its objectives, the facilitation of policy and decision making, ensuring compliance with established policies, procedures, laws and regulations. The Council has overall responsibility for the management of risk. The Council, including all committees, Town Clerk, RFO and other staff, all contribute to the identification and management of risk. Any identified weaknesses in this area are addressed and actioned by the Council. Through its standing orders, financial regulations and terms of reference, the Council uses delegated authority to the Town Clerk for self-audit mechanisms and controls to ensure the best value and financial propriety are achieved. All committees and Council receive regular and up-to-date reports on financial activities under their direction. Performance is regularly monitored against financial and operational budgets. The Council carries out regular risk assessments, identifying risks, assessing risks, addressing risks and reviewing and reporting these risks in a risk register. Key staff are trained in health and safety, first aid and general risk management. The Council has an internal auditor in accordance with its financial regulations and is responsible for ensuring that that person appointed meets the competency and independence requirements. For the fiscal year 24-25, this is Mulberry and Company who reports to the Council on the adequacy of its records, procedures, systems, internal control, regulations, risk management, reviews. The effectiveness of the internal audit system and audit plan is reviewed annually. The Council's external auditors, Mazars LLP, are independently appointed and submit an annual report and certificate of audit, which is presented to the Council once they have examined the annual governance and accountability return and any other documents specifically requested. The Council has responsibility for conducting an annual review of the effectiveness of the system of internal control, and the review of the effectiveness of the system of internal control is informed by the work of the full Council, the Clerk to the Council and RFO, who have responsibility for the development and maintenance of the internal control environment and managing risks, the appointed Councillor responsible for conducting internal audit checks, the independent internal auditor who reviews the Council's system of internal control, Mazars LLP, the Council's external auditors who make the final check using the annual return, a form completed and signed by the RFO, the Chair and the independent internal auditor. The external auditors issue an annual audit report and certificate. Through the audit process and a number of significant issues that are raised during the year, if relevant. The one thing that was picked up last year, which I've left in for this year, is training for members and officers continues to be a priority to address any gaps in knowledge and understanding of roles and responsibilities. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you. A lot to take in, but this is a statement of the last year's period, and we're going to be asked to propose and approve those.
Yes, please.
Propose, Councillor Lee.
Sorry, could I just
Yes,
ask
of
a
course.
question? Who is the councillor, the appointed councillor responsible for conducting internal audit checks?
So at the moment, that's Councillor Danielle Carter.
And we've got the agenda for
We have.
this coming year
Yes.
as well.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you for clarification.
Thank you. So we have Councillor Lee and Councillor Pennington. Votes.
That's unanimous.
Unanimous. Thank you very much.
If I could ask if you could
Sign
sign.
it, yeah.
Thank you.
There you go.
Thank you. And I'll sign as well.
Okay, item 5 on agenda item 12, review and approve the risk register for the year ending 31st of March 2025. I'm happy to propose the risk register, but I'd like to also ask that we take that into the F&GP committee to have a review at some point in this coming year, if that's okay from the chair.
Yes.
I'm happy to propose. Stefan, the votes.
Unanimous. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
To approve the annual governance statement by resolution, section 1 dash page 4, the annual governance and accountability return for the year ended 31st March 2025. Town clerk to read these at the meeting, town clerk and the mayor to sign and date plus minute reference. So I think we have already reviewed this within F&GP, is that correct? We have seen this? Yes, we have seen that.
You have seen it,
Yeah.
but you haven't reviewed it, so I need to read each of these.
Yeah,
annual
okay.
governance
Yeah, that's
statements.
fine.
Thank you. So these are the 9 assertions. So each one I'll read and I'll tell you that if you agree yes, what that means for the authority. So number 1, we have put in place arrangements for the effective financial management during the year and for the preparation of the accounting statements. Agreeing yes to this means this authority prepared its accounting statements in accordance with the accounts and audit regulations. Assertion number 2, we maintained an adequate system of internal control, including measures designed to prevent and detect fraud and corruption and reviewed its effectiveness. Agreeing yes to this means the authority made proper arrangements and accepted responsibility for safeguarding the public money and resources in its charge. Assertion 3, we took all reasonable steps to assure ourselves that there were no matters of actual or potential non-compliance with laws, regulations and proper practices that could have a significant financial effect on the ability of this authority to conduct its business and manage its finances. Agreeing yes to this statement means the authority has only done what it has legal powers to do and has complied with proper practices in doing so. Assertion 4, we provided proper opportunity during the year for the exercise of electors' rights in accordance with the requirements of the accounts and audit regulations. Yes to this means the authority during the year gave all persons interested the opportunity to inspect and ask questions about this authority's accounts. Assertion 5, We carried out an assessment of the risks facing this authority and took appropriate steps to manage those risks, including the introduction of internal controls and or external insurance cover where required. Answering yes to this statement means the authority considered and documented the financial and other risks it faces and dealt with them properly. Number 6, we maintain throughout the year an adequate and effective system of internal audit of the accounting records and control systems. Answering yes to this statement, the authority arranged for a competent person, independent of the financial controls and procedures, to give an objective view on whether internal controls meet the needs of this smaller authority. Number 7, we took appropriate action on all matters raised in reports from internal and external audit. Yes to this means the authority responded to matters brought to its attention by internal and external audit. Number 8, we considered whether any litigation, liabilities or commitments, events or transactions occurring either during or after the year end have a financial impact on this authority and where appropriate have included them in the accounting statements. Yes to this statement means the authority disclosed everything it should have about its business activity during the year, including events taking place after the year end if relevant. And number 9, trust funds including charitable. In our capacity as the sole managing trustee, we discharged our accountability responsibilities for the fund assets, including financial reporting and, if required, independent examination or audit. Yes to this statement means the authority has met all of its responsibilities, where as a body corporate, it is a sole managing trustee of a local trust or trusts. Thank you.
Thank you. If there's no comments, does somebody have to propose? Councillor Green and Councillor Franklin seconding. Voting. That's unanimous. Thank you.
If I could just ask
Yep.
you just sign that. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Number 6, to approve the accounting statements for 2024-25, section 2, page 5 of the annual governance and accountability return for the year ended 31st March 2025, to be signed by the Mayor.
And yeah, sorry, you need to vote, please.
Oh, okay. We're going to read it all.
No, sorry, no.
Proposer, Councillor Moorhouse, seconder, Councillor Green. Vote. Thank you. So I've got him to sort this facts on the distance everything being read out.
So there, yep, signed by the chair.
Thank you very much.
Approved. Thank you.
The final one is to receive and consider a report from the Town Clerk regarding the internal audit of Sandwich Town Council account and to review the appointment of the internal auditor for the year 25-26.
Sorry, I can read it if you want me to. Basically, I recommend that we continue with the internal auditor, Mulberry Local Authority Services Limited. Yes.
Yeah. I'm happy to propose that.
Second that.
Seconding that. That's unanimous as well. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Mr. Mayor, can I just add
Yep.
that the literally the exercise of public rights. So this is where the assertion goes out that the accounts will be available for inspection. So just to let people know, that will commence on the 25th of June 2025 and it will end on the 5th of August 2025. The notices will be on the website, in our notice boards, so just to let everybody know that that obviously is an opportunity for anyone that wants to, that's interested.
What's the end date again, sorry, Town Clerk?
5th of August. So that's part of our, making sure with the annual governance annual return, we're meeting with the requirements.
Thank you very much. Just a comment which we did say at F&GP, that actually to thank you, the RFO is now departed, in terms of all the work that was done and that's borne out by the audit that we've had undertaken. Thank you very much for all your efforts over the year. I suppose I'm glad we only do this once a year where we have to go through all of this. It's a really important process, but there's a lot of stuff to cover. But thank you for everything that was done past year, and it's, as I say, evidenced by the external review of that information.
Thank you. And if I would just add as well, with this public rights to inspect, there does need to be an appointment made. So somebody can't email me on the morning to tell me they're coming in the afternoon. We do have to have an appointment system. So which whoever contacts me, if somebody is interested, I'll obviously facilitate and make sure they get that appointment. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to agenda item 13, and that's attachment 14 in the pack. And this is the Sandwich Christmas Lights request for funding. And would you like to just give just a summary of it, because I think hopefully we've all read it, and it's fairly clear, but if you'd like to just summarise. So it's attachment 14.
Thank you. Thank you. So yes, this purpose of the report, you're asked to consider a request from the Sandwich Community Lights Committee for funding to support the Christmas light switching on parade for 2025. The background is that it's an annual event established over 30 years ago. It is organised by the Sandwich Community Lights, a community-led organisation run by volunteers. They have found themselves in a bit of a situation this year where they are needing additional funds, and they were not able to make the original window when we had the interim opportunity for people to apply. So you've got here before you report the details, what the organisation is, how long they've been established, why the funding wasn't sought in the first round of the interim opportunity, what the funds will be used for, and what would happen if they don't receive funding. You do have as well the constitution that was shared by the chair of the committee.
Yes, so the request is to allocate the remaining £700 that was unallocated in the first round for an important event that happens in the latter part of the year, and without that in the town, I think it would really leave a big gap in terms of the various festivals and events we have in Sandwich. But I'll open up to Councillor Auditor first, then Councillor Marie, and then Councillor Carter.
Yeah, I should declare an interest, I suppose, because I'm a committee member of community events, so I won't vote on this.
Okay.
But I have to say, last year on that day, it was the busiest I've ever seen the town. It was an absolutely fantastic day. Thousands of people here with knock-on benefits of shops, restaurants, pubs, etc. So I would thoroughly recommend this.
Thank you very much. Councillor Marie?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. As I stated earlier, I am the STC representative for Christmas Lights. I was also the chairman for the past 8 years of Christmas Lights. I stood down last year, as you can reflect in the report. It says that there was a change of committee memberships where I stood down after my time within the lights. I can say that the lights itself is predominantly for Sandwich. Vacancy, French Weekend and others are for the wider area. Predominantly the lights is for the town. It puts Sandwich in lights basically, put their name in lights basically. I'm sure Councillor Moorhouse will echo what I'm saying. It was the busiest it was last year. It was an incredible evening last year, and it was very successful, although the fire engine did break down, but we won't speak about that. But just want to make clear that the money that they have is not to buy new lights, it's to recondition the old lights that we have, because they're in keeping with the town, and they work well, and also the businesses are getting behind the lights more as well. And also, more so is regarding the charges that have increased regarding from DDC with running events. Obviously, we normally have the front car park closed off so we can put the fun fair. This money, hopefully, we'll see if we can work towards getting the fun fair back in the square, in the car park, but that's up to the new chairman of the committee to decide that. But I fully recommend second what Councillor Wiles said.
Okay, thank you. I've had enough in terms of support of it. If there's anybody's got any challenge or any questions, Councillor Carter.
Yeah, I do support Christmas lights, and it's a wonderful day. And my question is, normally if any application for grant, we need to review the procedure looking at last 3 years' accounts. So we haven't got any accounts presenting to us. Normally any other application, we have some sort of financial support paperwork looking at. So I just want to know where the accounts.
I think if you recall the actual round that we did earlier this year, that was not a requirement, but I mean this is a specific request that's come to this meeting. There's a very clear explanation of why they want this and what will happen if they don't. So I'm happy to proceed on that basis, and if it's unsuccessful, then so be it, but I'd like to propose that we do vote on this, because the 3 years accounts was not part of the round that we undertook in March, I believe it was. Yes, is that right?
That's correct. If I may, I was chair at the time, so the budget was allocated because obviously we've stopped the Tobbs fund and we're still waiting for the medic stuff, so organisations were applied for.
Yeah.
The last one was Sounds in Bloom, and I made the request that their budget was their award was halved, so in case the other events, because otherwise we'd be out of money, to give help on the event, and this is the classic case of an event needing, or an organisation needing help, and I'm glad that it's, we did that at the time.
Thank you. Anything else? Seconding it. We go to the votes. We've got one, one abstention.
Three
Green or
abstentions.
yellow. No, you're not voting, you're not voting.
We'll abstain.
Abstaining, yeah, three abstentions.
Can it be recorded that I didn't vote?
Yes.
Abstain on it.
Thank you very much, and one against. Moving on to agenda item 14, Dover District Council Off-Street Order 2020 Amendment. This is for members to receive and note the detail of the DDC Off-Street Order 2020 Amendments presented to us at attachment 15. Any comments, Councillor Moorhouse?
When this issue was raised at overview and scrutiny back in April, Councillor Mallett attended and spoke. I was asked to leave the room. Should I do so on this occasion?
It's up to you.
I was asked to leave the room. Perhaps I should follow suit.
It has to be your
I will,
decision.
yeah.
Okay, do we have any comments from the review of this? I mean, these charges are already in place as far as I understand, because I've checked on the internet website for DDC, and these are the charges that exist. I'm not completely sure what we've been asked to agree to here. Do you know?
So it's not to agree, it's to note
Yes,
the
well,
information.
yeah.
And obviously,
I propose that we note them.
I'll second that, but I'll also add to that amendment and no comment. Just there's no comment.
sorry, Mr. Mayor, because it does say representation support objecting. Your objection must explain the impact on traffic in the locality to be valid.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a deadline of
26th of June, which is only 3 days away, but there are no comments, so we're not going to comment on that. And we're noting it. So I'd like to propose we note it. Councillor Rees seconded that. And if we could vote. That's all noting, except for one abstention.
One abstention.
Thank you. Agenda item 15, this is the draft Dover District Town.
Oh yes, sorry.
Yeah. Draft Dover District Town and Parish Charter consultation, which is attachment 16.
That's it.
So we've been asked to consider the charter. Invited to comment. All responses will be collated and submitted to a meeting of the DDC Cabinet in the autumn with any proposed changes. My personal view is I attended a meeting, and it's probably going back 6 months ago actually, when parish councils met with DDC and this was tabled. I think the reaction in this room is about as much as what happened on that night as well. So a charter is a charter, but Councillor Fortescue is obviously animated by it. So
well, I wasn't quite clear. Aims of the charter. The first one, to acknowledge the vital roles played by both parties in local government. And it wasn't quite clear to me what was meant by both parties.
Means DDC and Parish Council.
yeah, that, as the document unfolds, it talks about what DDC will do and what the parish and town council will do. So I think that's the line that's being drawn within that charter, Councillor Fortescue.
But it might actually spell out that it's, it could read something like to acknowledge the vital roles played both by Dover District
Okay.
town, etc.
To be more specific.
Introduction does kind of cover it.
We'll reflect on that one, and if it's if you've got a lot more comments to add in. No. Are we happy to note it without any further comments?
I mean, like lots of things in local government, there's lots of words in there,
So
but
it's good to have a
whether
chapter.
they actually happen is another matter.
The local government reorganisation will test this chart.
They might file it away as well. Councillor Barry.
I would just make a comment that having seen a massive lack of engagement already from Derby District Council about local government reorganisation, this is nonsense. It's not that they are not even starting to adhere to it. So we can note it, but I think if others have been very quiet about it, perhaps we should be quiet. But
So the response by the 23rd of June. No, that was different. That's
31st of July.
31st of July. So what I'll do is, sorry, Councillor Ripley.
Yeah, I just, page 78, part 3, roles and responsibilities, I queried it about to work collaboratively, with all town parish councils on issues of mutual interest. I'm sorry, but I think DDC has been seriously lacking in the past with their collaboration with us. We get a number of good things and we know about them at the last minute, so I would,
So this may change everything.
well, let's hope so.
Councillor Reid.
If you allow me to, I don't think this is worth the paper it's written on. The communication is dire regarding parish councils and especially us with Dover District Council, and obviously the parking charges stuff. They kind of tried to stick that in through the back door without consulting any of the parish councils. So make a note, but with no comment whatsoever, because I don't think they'll ever achieve this. And also the devolution stuff's coming in. So my opinion is they're just writing it on blank paper, personally.
So what I would suggest is, obviously this is an important document that they've generated. I'd prefer not to go back with some heartfelt views, because I don't think that will add value to the process. But what I would suggest, if we give a week's opportunity for any councillors to reflect on how they might have reflected something tonight, if you want to put it in a way that actually relates to the document itself, more than happy to look at that and we can present that, if that's okay.
Can I just ask one thing? Was there any collaboration between DDC and parishes
Only
in the putting together of this document?
Not putting together, as far as I know. My experience is only from that meeting we went to, and it was presented, and it's,
A fait accompli.
well, it was presented.
Okay.
Okay, so we give some time for
I think
comments.
that's
Okay, I propose we note it, and there's an opportunity for any specific comments relating to the content within the next week. So, second vote. Thank you very much.
Is that agreed? Yeah.
All agreed, yes. Moving on to agenda item 16, Cinque Ports champion for sandwich. So the Confederation of Cinque Ports is seeking a Cinque Port champion to represent Sandwich and contribute to the development meetings organised on a regular basis. So this is one name we're looking for, so I'm looking for anybody who would like to put their name forward. I do know Councillor Paul has mentioned his interest. Is there anybody else who's interested?
It's not me. Can I?
Yes.
Can I suggest Councillor Marie?
Councillor Marie as well. Councillor Mack.
I was just going to ask, what do they do?
So from my experience, it is a small subset of the Cinque Ports Confederation who meet and talk about the future development, design, basically the delivery of the Confederation as an organisation. So it's a working group level type activity with half a dozen or so representatives on it.
Is it likely to be a bit more proactive than what we've seen so far in terms of publicity and everything else, which is a little bit lacking?
Are you bidding to be on?
I wasn't bidding, I'm asking what.
I
Once I
can't
know what
answer
it's
that.
about, then I might put my hand up. But I think we've got a good nominee here already.
Councillor Carter.
Yeah, I just being paused and absent Paul here. He just want me to say that if your question about what they do, when Paul was Speaker Cinque, he's initiated a website. They didn't even have a website before. So he wants to have more information for people to know what Cinque is all about. The championship is so somebody representing Sandwich at the meeting have their, I don't know how often they have, definitely it's quite a lot, regular, sort of say twice every other month, for example. All the Cinque, 14 Cinque meet together, discuss what we need to do, how to publicise the Cinque, what can we do better, that sort of thing. But I don't know the detail, but he obviously involved a lot last year being Speaker of Cinque, so he's very interested representing Sandwich again.
So yes, Councillor.
Yeah, this was an initiative that started 3 years ago by the then Speaker, High. The idea is that the Confederation only meet 2 times a year, and the idea is this group, so there'll be 14 representatives, one from each Cinque, they meet more regularly, so that they can advertise what each Cinque is doing, work together, so it'll be more of like a tourism thing than advertise, so we can all work together for a common aim for the Cinque. I mean, like, there might be a sailing regatta at Hastings, but who here knows there's a sailing regatta at Hastings? But if we get the champions, that's the idea, that it links the 14 port more closely together.
Thank you very much, that's very helpful. So we've got 2 names, so can I suggest that we do go to a vote on those 2 names? Unless there's any other comments, and if not, I'll do an alphabetical order. Councillor P. Carter is the first name. Would anybody like to vote for Paul Carter? Four. And those for Councillor Marie? 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Abstain.
3, was it abstention?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. That therefore, Councillor Marie is the nomination to go forward.
Yeah.
Thank you. Agenda item 17, appointment of the Councillor Auditor 2025-26. So for the previous year, I believe it was Councillor Danielle Carter. And this is to appoint Town Councillor to undertake a monthly reconciliation check on the accounts, including signing bank reconciliation, and statements, deputy to be considered, to be appointed in the event that the primary councillor is not available. Are there any people, any councillors willing to put their names forward to be considered for this? Councillor Green, thank you. Anybody else? No? So I'm happy to propose Councillor Green. Councillor Franklin very quickly seconded.
Yeah, the volunteer to walk you on.
Vote on that. It's all unanimous.
Yep.
And do we want to consider a deputy? And if so, is somebody happy to nominate themselves as a deputy on a just-in-case basis?
Don't have to.
We don't have to. That's fine. We'll move on then. Councillor Moorhouse. I'm happy to propose Councillor Moorhouse. And that is unanimous as well. Thank you very much. Okay, agenda item 18, attachment 19, Human Resources Committee recruitment. Members consider reports from the HR committee that relates to the process and cost for recruitment for 2 roles for STC. And that is attachment 19. Okay, so do you want to talk to this one, Town Clerk, or would Councillor Green like to talk to this?
I'm quite happy to talk to it.
Thank you very much.
Just running briefly through, you'll see in section 1 is to thank both the Town Clerk and the RFO for some really great work and actually some outstanding work. I think we've been very lucky to have them. The Town Clerk's obviously retiring at the end of September, and the RFO has already left us, and it's imperative that we move forward with recruiting permanent people to take over their roles. But because of the way it kind of works, we need to have some overlap and bring in interims. And you can see in the table there, for the recruitment of the Town Clerk, by the time you issue the advert, receive responses, make appointments and so forth. The kind of the gestation period is 25 weeks, and the town clerk is going to leave before then, so we do need to bring in an interim. And it's the same with the RFO, the interim is already in place. In terms of organising this, when we're trying to recruit a town clerk, I don't think any of us on the council really have the knowledge and insight. So the proposal from the HR is that we should try and get an experienced town clerk to help with the technical aspects of the recruitment, because obviously it's unfair to ask our existing town clerk if she would help with that, and indeed she may not even be here when we hold those interviews. So there is a proposal that we set aside £1,000 as a fee to pay for some specialist support. In terms of advertising the roles, these roles have not yet been advertised and the job descriptions haven't been finalised. So this committee is asking for permission to allow the HR committee to finalise the draft job descriptions and adverts tomorrow night, and then we can formally launch them on the Sandwich Town Council website. But also we need to launch them in the areas where town clerks and RFOs actually look. And so the proposal is to go to the Society of Local Council Clerks, and they offer different packages in terms of how long they will advertise the role for, whether they use their own social media. But the recommendation from the council is that we should adopt one of their bronze packages, which costs £324. So we're asking for a decision on that now. But really, this is a major thing for the council, because when we look at the cost of the advertising the roles, we look at the cost of paying 2 wages during the overlap periods. And yes, there can be a premium cost, and there is a premium cost for an agency person. And when we look at that all combined, the estimate is it's going to be something like a £40,000 cost over and above what is budgeted for this council for this year. And 40,000, you can see the build-up there, and in some aspects the build-up could be conservative because we don't exactly know how long we will need the interims for. But it's a significant amount of money, and as the council only has just over £50,000 in its general contingency, this money can only come from the general contingency, but in taking the monies from the general contingency, we're then broaching the regulations which say that we should keep several months' money in hand. But this is the reality of it, where we've kind of got no alternative but to recruit interims. But it's important to get on with this recruitment. So we're asking for 5 decisions of 5 things here. To agree in principle to recruit an interim town clerk to align with the availability of our current town clerk, who has got holidays to take before she retires at the end of September. So that's one decision in principle. The second one, to approve to engage the experienced town clerk to help us with the recruitment. We might not be able to get one, but we should try. And the third decision we're asking for is to delegate authority to the HR to finalise the job description and job adverts. And to approve, the fourth decision then is to approve the proposal to use the SLCC website for the adverts and to note the impact. So that's the report. If anybody's got any questions, I'm sure myself or other members of the HR committee will try and answer.
Yes, so I'll just make a comment. In terms of the actual cost of recruitment itself, it's small and wouldn't impact the budget significantly. The costs arise from the fact that we are paying for an interim RFO at the moment. We will be paying potentially for an interim town clerk as well. The longer that lasts, the more expensive or more the costs increase. So it's imperative on us to do the recruitment as quickly as we can and hopefully secure somebody suitable to fill the two roles. And then the costs will go down as a consequence. But these are principal amounts that are suggested in terms of the lead-in times and recruitment. And I think, as Councillor Breen says, this is the reality that we have to manage. It's not looking for money to spend, it's actually money we might have to incur as a result. But I'll...
Yeah, and sorry, could I just finally say, as the Mayor is saying, this is an estimate. Once we've actually gone through this process, the HR committee will bring an actual cost report to this council so that you can actually see.
So I'll start at that end and work down, because obviously I will take a number of comments on this. Councillor Auditor.
Thank you. No problems with the principle of what's proposed. I just had two questions of detail. One is whether Calc couldn't help with the process, and in particular providing advice on the appointment. And secondly, would it be possible to send the decided, the fixed term of reference for both posts round to members of the council once they've been decided in HR committee?
I would have thought so, but
On an information basis, yes?
Yes.
Yes, of course, of course. No reason to. No, that's fine. Councillor Marie?
Yeah, I just want to make a comment. As a member of the HR committee, or new member of the HR committee, this is an unprecedented time. We're losing two major roles within the council, and it could get close to the council going to a halt. It won't, because we have an interim finance officer. The last time it came to this was a few years ago. We had the former chief executive, and she departed, and no work was getting done. So my comment would be we need to do this, get it right. We need to do it quickly, but we have to get it right as well, because we can't go down to the way it was 3-4 years ago as a council when I just became a councillor. That's my.
Thank you very much. Sorry, Councillor Fortescue.
Just Councillor Anderson.
I'm coming this way and then I'll come down.
It's interesting that you start there and just make that comment. You are in.
Yeah, I'm totally against the interim clerk. I mean, our clerk's here till September.
Yes.
We have a trained town clerk, don't we? I mean, she could probably increase her hours, yes, if we ask her. And I think the cost in it is ridiculous. We've never done that before, had the interim town clerk. We've had no clerk, and we've had, someone else, but we've never had a clerk and two people employed at the same job at the same time just to learn. I think I'm totally against this interim town clerk. I think the cost is ridiculous.
So, one comment I would make about the assistant town clerk is actually they're not a deputy town clerk, so they can't step up, and I have spoken to them already.
Yes, but they are a fully qualified town clerk, and they're the parish clerk for Ash.
They're not. I have spoken to that officer, and for a number of reasons. Firstly, that officer doesn't feel prepared, ready to be a town clerk, isn't qualified, and currently works reduced hours. So there are a number of reasons why that person doesn't feel able or wanting to do it, and that's entirely their call. But I think this interim position is about a small overlap to make sure there's a transfer of information. This is not about dual running for weeks, but the town clerk, current town clerk, leaves at the end of September, so we're not very far away from that. And the question is, when we come to that point, whether we want to take an interim or not, there'll be a cost budget put forward to us. The recruitment will already have started, and we'll know where we are in the recruitment cycle. Because we may find ourselves in a position that we get an applicant very quickly, or equally get no applicants. So we'll have to see how it unfolds. But they are very valid comments, and we have to be very careful about the amount of spend.
Yeah, because I mean, the town clerk's not in until September.
Yeah.
And you're saying that she's not fully qualified. She doesn't have to be, because we've still got the town clerk here. I think we can keep the town clerk till September.
We can.
And we've got the assistant town clerk, as I understand it. She's doing, I think, assistant town clerk, and a responsible finance officer because she's doing two roles. So you could just, instead of doing a finance officer, concentrate on the town clerk with the town clerk until we get a full-time town clerk. I don't think we need this interim one. I think it's ridiculous.
I think we can certainly take that into the HR committee and discuss that tomorrow when we meet. Yes, Councillor Auditor.
Councillor Anderson.
Oh, we can go that way for Councillor Anderson.
Thank you very much, Councillor Wells. It's been a problem all my life that my name begins with a U. It causes all sorts of problems. I would like to make two comments. One is, I do think that the appointment of an interim town clerk will be very difficult. Because we will rely on the availability of somebody in this locality coming forward who has the qualification to be a town clerk. So that's just a warning. The second point that I want to make has a more general applicability, and that is that although it's a small proportion of the expenditure that's projected in this paper, £1,000 is £1,000, and I'm not at all clear what the expertise is that the HR committee wishes to buy in through a fee to be paid to somebody with some unnamed form of expertise. The two forms of expertise that strike me as possibly the reason as to why the council is being asked to fund an additional £1,000 is one, human capital and knowing who's around, who should be headhunted from local councils, what town clerk has got itchy feet in the southeast region and might be persuaded to come here. That's one form of expertise. And the other form of expertise, I'm really not clear what the queries are, and as Councillor Pennington has already said, they are possibly forms of expertise that could be satisfied by making inquiries of Cllr and Nunk. But I would like to hear more about what it is that the HR committee thinks it doesn't possess and which could be satisfied by the payment of a £1,000 fee.
Okay, so we'll come back to that. Councillor Green might come back to that. Take Councillor Black first.
Okay, I propose this because that's a method I use very frequently. When you're got relatively new people and you don't have the full technical expertise, it's not like engineers recruiting an engineer and they know what engineering is about. We are relatively new councillors, the majority on the committee, not all, and we want to be sure that we can actually ask the tough questions that we may not have picked up. And this is something that many organisations do, particularly universities do it, when you're recruiting for non-academic jobs. So if you're looking for a finance director, you would use your own management, but you might well use a finance director from another university. In some cases they do it pro bono. We don't know if they're going to do it pro bono in this case. We may be able to do that. This is a contingency that we put in place. And usually you'll find that they'll be able to give you nuances which, unless you're really familiar in that field, you won't have, because you're not experts in that field. And that's the reason for proposing this. It's not, and if they can bring us some useful additional information about head hunting, great. This is much more in the interviewing process and the understanding process. If they can bring us expertise in advance of that, well and good, but that was not the primary objective.
Councillor
Yeah, I take your point about universities, but universities are much larger organisations than Sandwich Town Council. And we are, as councillors, familiar with a great deal of the workings that go on within this small, relatively small organisation. And I'm still not clear what the specific forms of expertise are that we would be paying £1,000 for.
apart from perhaps knowing who's around. But also the other point I wanted to make is that we're very, very unlikely to have a great deal of choice.
I'll take Councillor Wiles first.
Do you want to take? Yeah, so I wasn't able to attend the HR committee the week before last, but was elected chair in my absence. So I'll be taking this on with other members of the committee. I do have some experience of this because if you recall when the former chief executive left, it was myself and a couple of others who recruited an interim town clerk. You may remember that person. But I was also involved in finding our current town clerk by writing to all of the town clerks in the area, in the eastern part of Kent. And I'm proposing we do that again because there might well be someone, as Councillor Auditor says, who's, you know, has itchy feet and is looking to step up. I mean, I very much hope that the figures listed here are kind of worst case scenario. For example, 13 weeks for notice, it might be there's someone who can start next week. We don't know. But what I would urge the council to do is to give the HR committee full authority just to crack on with this, because we really need to, you know, move things forward. I am suggesting as well that we cast the net as far as possible, as widely as possible, not just through SLCC, but through social media channels, through contacts. There might be someone out there who doesn't even know that the town clerk is leaving or the RFO has left, and they could be interested in the position. So we do need to go as far as wide as possible. But yes, I do urge the council to give HR committee the delegated authority just to get on with this.
Sorry, thank you, Mr. Mayor. In response to Councillor Ungerson, I would say a couple of things. Number one, when a lot of even interim jobs now, the recruitment process involves psychometric testing and a lot of behavioural testing, because it's not just about being able to do things, and a lot was talked about having a clerk with the right competency and the general power of competency. And the other important thing for me is to have somebody who has knowledge of the people who are available, because despite our best efforts, people can interview well, especially when they're experienced people. They've probably had a lot of jobs, and sometimes they get good references because their current employers would be glad to see the back of them. So I think, you know, I'm recommending that we do have the option. I don't know that we're going to find somebody who can give us those levels of insight, but I think it's something that would be well worth spending when we're spending so much money on this process. And we really want somebody who's going to lock into this council and, you know, do as Karen Palmer did, you know, do 10 years plus.
Any other comments?
Could I just,
yes.
I just comment on the £1,000. I mean, that's a small element within this, but it might well be that there's a town clerk, I can think of one, who could give this pro bono, so that we get the expertise or the advice for nothing.
So,
Take one.
yeah, fine.
I do think, I mean, psychometric testing, oh dear, but I do think it's very important that we are committed to appointing a town clerk with all the qualifications that a town clerk, in order to call themselves a town clerk, has to have, because we must retain the general power of competence. And if we don't appoint a town clerk, then we lose it, and that would have consequences which we don't want.
So in terms of the general power of competence, we don't lose it immediately that the existing town clerk goes. We retain it for the full year.
Yes.
So there is some capacity beyond.
So we retain it until the next election.
Sorry, yes, to the next election. We've got 2 years. So that's worth noting. But my personal view is looking at recommendations. For me, 3 and 4 are the key ones tonight, and I hope we get those approved, which is to approve that the authority is delegated to the HR committee to get on with the job descriptions and adverts, and also to approve the listing of the job vacancies themselves at the cost that's indicated. My sense is that we possibly need to come back with more detail. The issue is that the STC currently does not meet again until September. So I think we need to look at seriously considering coming back as an extraordinary meeting once we've got some clarity within the HR committee on those particular aspects. Because once the adverts are out, we'll know what the response is, we'll know what we're dealing with in terms of capacity and timescales. I would like to suggest that I would propose number 3 and 4 we vote on, and the others we can defer and come back at a later point. Unless others would like to disagree with me on that, say we propose it all.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to see your comments on item 2, which is approving principle to engage with the town clerk. I do feel that should be part of it. So it's a 2, 3, and 4.
Okay.
That'd be my opinion. And if you are happy to amend that, I'll happy to second.
I'm happy to do that. So that's.
Yeah, ask we. If you don't agree to principle number 1, we're going to run out of time. The whole point that Councillor Green has made is looking at the timescale. If you don't do any interim at all, you are going to run out of time, and already we have an interim for the RFO. I don't think you can ignore one. Whether you choose 2, I would recommend that you don't refuse to make a decision on that. I would think that all 5 of them really need to be made. But if you don't do one, it's a problem.
No, you are right, Councillor Black, because I think we need to come back with, having started the process of looking at an interim, I think we should still come back in terms of what the potential cost is for that, in terms of where it's, we've just got an indicative cost at the moment. So we do need to come back with costs for the full council to agree to, because the impact on the general reserve is significant, and we aren't going to be able to create money from elsewhere, so we need to make a sensible decision regards the general reserve and the impact of it. So that would be my suggestion. So that means, in principle, we agree to investigate the recruitment of an interim town clerk, to find out how quickly we might find someone and what the cost is, but I think we should have to come back to STC, taking account of comments from Councillor Auditor, which has been supported by elsewhere as well. If not, we are potentially looking at a budget cost, potentially, of 40,000 out of 59,000.
I don't know if it's the proper thing to do, but I'm going to ask anyway. Could we ask the town clerk, having worked here for a number of years now and understanding the complexities, do you feel that somebody could come in and pick it up cold without a handover and some kind of guidance? And how long would it take that person to get fully up to speed? Because I've really got the feeling that the job is so complex, it's advisable to have kind of a handover period.
I would say, it is complex because you've got the toll bridge fund, but it's actually the sheer amount of work that's involved that is the biggest challenge. And it is finding somebody that's prepared to put in the hours. Lots of you know I do on average 50 hours a week. I'm actually contracted for 37 and a half. There is no way I could do both roles, which is the toll bridge fund and the town council, service all your meetings, do the agendas, do the minutes, do the reports in 37 and a half hours a week. It's just not possible. So I think that's the biggest challenge is to look at capacity. Yeah.
I know we're struggling a bit with this, and I'm not surprised. So I'll just take a couple more comments. We will need, and I'll ask Councillor Green to reflect and think about in terms of his recommendations, which ones we can push through without too much challenge, and see whether we need to modify any. Councillor Auditor.
Thank you. Just briefly, firstly, I would support the proposal that you made to have a bit more time to work on it and then come back to an extraordinary council meeting, because it is a fairly fluid and developing process. Secondly, I would urge the HR committee to focus on the recruitment of the long-term people rather than get stuck on recruiting interims and so on. The important thing, as you said, is A, launch the procedure as fast as we can, and B, to see it through so that we have a permanent town clerk and RFO in position as soon as possible. I take the cost as something we have to swallow.
That's a helpful comment. Councillor Auditor, last comment and then
Last comment. So I think, according to the timetable, by the end of July, we will get applications for the post. So at that point, we can have a fairly clear idea how many people there are, whether any of them are suitable, and whether at that point we do need an interim or not. Because if the person who seems suitable is on a 13-week notice, then clearly there will be an interim required, but possibly there won't be. So I think recommendation 1 has to stay in there, but it has to be a flexible situation that we adapt as we go along, depending on the responses received by the end of July. So I'm not saying that we should definitely appoint an interim, but we might need to.
And this is agreement in principle, is how it's written.
It's agreement in principle.
No, I think, we've got to plan for the worst but hope for the best. And yes, I'm very happy to come back at the end of July when the advert's been running for 3 weeks. We'll have a much clearer picture then, and happy to do that.
So we could move to a vote. So the first recommendation is to agree in principle to recruit an interim town clerk to align with availability of an interim to achieve an optimum handover period and possibly holiday cover. Is somebody happy to propose that? Councillor Black, Councillor Wiles is seconding it. We could vote on that.
Sorry, one against.
Recommendation 2, approval in principle to engage an experienced town clerk to assist with recruitment of a new town clerk with a budget of £1,000. Is anybody happy to propose Max proposing? Second Marie, second the vote.
3 against.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 abstentions. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 4. Recommendation 3, delegated authority to the HR committee to approve the job descriptions and adverts to be used as part of the recruitment process. I'm happy to propose that. Second. Marie. That is 2 abstentions. Fourth one is to approve to list job vacancies on the SLCC website for 4 weeks at a cost of £324 plus that for each vacancy. I'm happy to propose that. Second. Marie. That's unanimous. And council to note and accept the estimated impact on the operating reserve budget.
So could that be changed to potential estimated impact?
Sorry, would you be happy to council to note, not to accept necessarily, but to note the potential estimated impact on the operating reserve. So at this stage we should just note it. Yeah, and we will come back to discuss that. Yes.
I'll propose that.
Councillor Auditor seconding the vote. That's 2 abstentions. Thank you very much. Okay, moving on to agenda item 19, representation on outside bodies, to elect members to serve on various statutory bodies and other outside organisations for the ensuing civic year. Decision required, and that is attachment 20. So I think at the moment the vast majority of those current councillors listed, it doesn't present any issues in terms of numbers, apart from 2.
Yes.
So Calc, we currently have two representatives are required. Currently we have Councillor Moorhouse and Councillor Carter on Calc. Council's Dover Area Committee. The question is, my names will be added on the basis of...
You expressed an interest
Did I? Oh, wow. I am happy if the two existing ones prefer to do it.
Yes, yeah. I was going to recommend, unless there was any changes, I was going to recommend acceptance.
Okay. Councillor Moorhouse, do you?
Stay on, really.
Stay on there.
So you're happy to?
I'm happy to be a deputy, if that's all right. Councillor Black?
Last time, it was Sandwich Festival Association. I know you were in a transition phase, and we talked about that. I'm happy to be on it, but perhaps you and I need to talk about what you might want me to do.
Yes, yes.
On that basis, I'm happy to accept.
We will have to have a coffee morning and chat about it. Yeah.
Hey,
Mr. Just one question.
sorry, Councillor Ripley first, and then.
Sorry.
Yeah, two things. White Cliffs Country, my name's down for that, and I did contact them when my name first went up, and I had no response from them, so I'm afraid that died a death with me. The other one is the Fair Trade Dover District Network. Same thing, had no contact with them at all. I don't know about Councillor Tomlins, but nothing.
No.
Nothing back from them.
So I think on those two, the town hall could make contact.
I
Just,
can.
yeah. To establish whether they're still needed. Are you happy to be represented if?
If they get that.
Should it ever be met?
Yeah.
Yeah. Councillor Moorhouse?
Yes, the White Mill Folk Museum. Notice my names again. When do they meet?
I've never
Friday
had a meeting
mornings.
in the 5 years I've been councillor.
Friday mornings.
Yes,
What,
you
for a
do.
committee meeting?
They're not committee meetings there.
No, they
Eggs and coffee.
coughing chat. Yeah, they're quite informal at the moment because they've unfortunately they've had a few illnesses, a few people left. But the Friday morning, so I have asked them to have they should have an AGM.
Okay.
So and I'd just like to say United Charities. I don't know if you want to keep that on or just knock it off.
No, we are going to come to that in a minute.
Yes,
Yeah. Right. If it's pertinent to actually membership, that's fine. I don't necessarily want a very broad conversation, but if it's about your names on anything, but Councillor Green?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor. A couple of things. The first thing, last year I was on the Rights of Way as an outside representative, and I contacted Kent County Council, and I got a negative response from them on that. And I'd previously been on the waterways, and again, there wasn't any activity to report, but those two outside bodies, I don't know whether the council is still interested in being involved with them.
It's because we haven't had any contact. I can't find any record of contacts for the associations or organisations any longer. So there may not be information.
Yeah, I was the actual Stanley Town rep for about 12 years on the Rights of Way, but I think COVID knocked it on there because there was a local KCC officer in charge of the footpaths, and she used to have a meeting at least once a year in our area, like the Dover area. So perhaps Kent County Council perhaps could chase up the rights of way of the footpaths.
Well, if he's the same one that's in charge of the bridle paths, it'd be useless, but...
It is the same one.
I think again we'll add that to the list of contacts, or maybe we've actually got to contact. Yes. Okay. So that just leaves one, which is a Sandwich United charity. So we have had a bit of a checker passed around this, but we do know that there are 2 vacancies because they confirmed it in writing last year that will be available from September of this year. So it's 2 vacancies, as I understand, Town Clerk.
Yes, correct.
So we're looking for 2 names to go forward, and we have got 2, 4, 6 names interested. We might have more. Councillor Gray?
I thought the Sandwich United Charity was part of the resolution that they no longer required, had the need for Sandwich Council representatives. And nothing. So
I think it's slightly different about if
So we were told last year that they had 4 representatives in place last year, but the 2, the places will be available September 2025. I've got an email to that effect from the chair. And that's why I put that in this.
and that was the last
That
correspondence.
doesn't seem to accord with the resolution which we were told they had passed, saying they no longer wished or required to have council representatives. So I don't understand that.
And I have checked on the charity Charity Commission. I still can't see that that resolution has been documented.
Well, why are they only giving us 2 representatives?
Because
So
there's
their charter says
because two, yes, 4, but only 2 are becoming vacant because of the time scales of the duration of their tenure. Councillor Reid.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. I'm going to put some more light to that. So, Councillor Gray is absolutely correct. The resolution they made, I speak to the chair regularly, they made a resolution to stop STC councillors becoming trustees for the Sandwich United Charities. This council then took upon itself to write a letter when Councillor Carter was mayor at the time, and the letter went to the Charity Commission arguing that case. They came back and they've come back and they gave a letter to the Sandwich United Charities saying that they can continue what they're doing. However, I do know that there are 2 vacancies going because I've seen them and I've spoken to the chair, and I do know that 4 people already, personally, privately, put their names forward for the trusteeships. They're meeting on Thursday evening to discuss those positions within the trustees. That's I know, but I do feel this council needs to re-look at the Charity Commission or speak to the chair directly to see what the case is, because I do feel that what Councillor Gray is saying and what I'm saying is correct.
So, Councillor Gray.
Sorry, thank you. Thanks for that, Councillor Marie. I've seen the charter which says that at the annual meeting of the Sandwich Town Council, 4 representatives would be nominated. So that's at the annual meeting. So I would have thought that 4 representatives from Sandwich Town Council should be nominated each year. I also feel that this council puts a great emphasis on tradition and respect. And I think it's important that the trustees of Sandwich United Charities show their respect to the Sandwich Town Council. I think they're being disrespectful.
Absolutely right.
I'm sorry, I think they're being disrespectful, and I think the council should engage with other mechanisms, with our chaplain, with our legal advisors, with the Charity Commission, to redouble our efforts, because this is not satisfactory and it's not a respectful way to treat Sandwich Town Council.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor. I agree. I completely agree. So the term was every time there's an election, 4 councillors from this council were elected to do a 4-year term for the Sandwich United Charities. Since the last elections in 2022, 23, they haven't. That's when they changed it. So the new administration, us, came in. That's when they started to change the resolution. I don't know the ins and outs of it. I just speak to the chair on as a friendly basis, just ask to see how it's going. Regarding the chaplain for the chaplain for St Clements, they have their own separate chaplain for St Bart's. So that's null and void. The other, as I said, regarding if they change the resolution, I haven't personally seen the change of the resolution, and I've asked to see it personally. I haven't said I can continue to ask him, and if it's beneficial for the council, I can bring it to the council to show you. But all I can do is ask for it. But that's how it is at the moment. And I'm trying to help the council to understand and hope. I do agree we should have representative. It's one of the biggest charities within the town. So we've always had trustees as from the STC representative within there for many years. So I do feel that yes, we do need to see how it goes, but we need to push it. I'm more than happy on my behalf to see what I can get in writing, if the council were happy with that. But until then, I do, as I said, Councillor Gray's absolutely right. They have changed the resolution, and I'm not sure what we can do.
Yeah, I'm not certain they have changed the resolution. We've only seen in writing suggesting they have. So what I would, picking up on the comments suggested, Councillor Green's right. I think it's actually an onus on us as a council to nominate 4 individuals, but I don't want to necessarily go through all the detail that we went through last time, because Councillor Gray was quite actively involved in that, as Town Clerk was, and it didn't get us any results in terms of it. So I do not want, particularly with the restrictions around capacity of staff, we go through that certainly now. But I would suggest we should be nominating 4 names again, and we should put those forward to the SUC and wait their response. And we can ask for sight of the change to their constitution that demonstrates that they have actually updated it. That would be my proposal. If somebody's happy to support me on that, but we need to come up with 4 names. But Councillor Franklin,
there is always 4 town councillors, but they serve. So you start off with 2 councillors, and then 2 years later you get another 2 councillors. So they always staggered. And we also had councillors that were members of the council, and then stood down at election, but they still wanted to be on some parts, so they were still representing the town council. But it is like a 4 years. It's every 2 years you nominate 2 councillors on. So they overlap.
as things stand at the moment, we have not successfully nominated anybody for well before the previous election. So actually the 4 years and 4 candidates are now expired in terms of representatives. Councillor Watts.
Yeah, so SUC is a very significant charity. It holds many assets, and it's, from my reading of their accounts, there's well over £2 million sitting in their account. So I think from our point of view as a town council, we have an interest in knowing what their plans are for the town, how they're managing their properties for the benefit of poor people in the town, how they're managing their assets, perhaps for wider housing issues. I've had a bit of a run-in, if you like, with the chair of the charity, which is why I didn't put my name forward, but I'm willing to provide advice because I've had experience of working with almshouse charities elsewhere. But I do think whoever goes on to that charity as nominees from this council needs to be prepared for perhaps a frosty reception, and they need to be willing to become heavily engaged in the work of that charity, to know what they're doing and to try and perhaps challenge some of the things that are happening there.
Just one more question. Can I just point out to the council, so 3 former councillors that were elected to be as an STC reps for this council for the Sandwich United Charities still remain on the Sandwich United Charities trustees 3 years before, after they've now left office of Sandwich Town Council. Just want to point that out to the council. You all know probably who they are, so I'll just leave that with you.
And beyond 4 years from being appointed by this council.
Yeah.
So, I would suggest, I don't know if Town Clerk can advise, is that we do nominate 4 representatives tonight, and then we take it forward between yourself and me in terms of writing a letter with the names and seek a response from the charity.
Yeah.
Any advice on the voting? How we might run it? We've got 6 names.
We've got 6 names, so is there anybody that, in hindsight, wants to withdraw from the process? If there isn't, then I think you need to do what we've just done with the, you read the names alphabetically and you take votes.
Councillor Anderson.
I think, given that there are 6 candidates, I think that, and we're going to vote, I think each of those candidates should be given an opportunity to say why they would like to be a representative on the Sandwich United Charity and what they could bring to it.
I think also, should each councillor have 4 votes for 4 candidates rather than one vote?
Sorry, can I just say this is getting confusing and we're now on the time constraints over 9 o'clock now. My opinion would be is to defer that item, agree the ones that we've agreed on, defer the Sandwich United Charities, and then we can put something in writing like we did for like the HR committee voting and possibly stuff. I do feel that we're going to be, without being rude, it's blowing in the wind basically. I do feel that we are going to be rocking a hard place regarding Sandwich, because they've been very frosty for the past 4 years, we all know that. And I do feel like we should...
My personal view is I think we're in this meeting today, we won't meet again until September. If we don't agree 4 names tonight, we are then just kicking it into the long grass, and it actually undermines any correspondence that we send. I think we should have 4 nominated councillors this evening, and we should take those as part of the communication. I accept what you're saying, Councillor Marie, that actually we may be blowing in the wind, but at least we're doing the right thing from a council perspective.
Yeah.
Okay. The question is about the number of votes that each councillor should have.
And whether councillors can vote for themselves or not.
It's up to you. You've done both options, so it's completely whichever you think
I don't
is
think record if we've got 4 votes. You have to record. Which means it's the login.
I don't see why
Don't
they
get
shouldn't.
confused again.
exactly.
No, I mean, to be clear.
Mr. Parish,
One vote.
surely if there's 2 vacancies, we only need 2 councillors.
Now this, what would take,
Why would nominate 4 when there's only 2 vacancies?
there isn't necessarily only 2 vacancies. The problem, Councillor Franklin, is that we've got a lot of differing opinions about where we are with the SUC. So we should go on the front foot and just state our case and let's see what response we get. If not, we're trying ourselves to unpick a web. Let's just be simple. Let's present our view in terms of the number of candidates that we want to put forward.
Taking up on Councillor Franklin's point there, if we nominate 4, maybe we should choose the first 2 to
For the
go.
high scores. For the high scores. Okay. So 1 vote per councillor. We're looking for 4 councillors, and if there are any ties, then we'll rerun it for all people to vote, and you can vote for yourself. Is that okay? One vote from each councillor from any of the names on, rather than 4 votes.
Okay, so each one of us has to vote for one of these 6, 1 from 6.
The trouble is, if you get 15 votes, then there's no more votes.
I think if you try, if you just
If 4 votes,
Okay, just
Yeah.
making it recorded.
just record 4 votes.
Okay, right.
Yeah, and that's, can I also just make a note of
Yes,
that as well? Just to,
So just to
just
rerun
give
it,
me a sec.
in agreement with the town clerk, we're all going to have 4 votes each, and we can vote for ourselves, and hopefully that will give us a clear result. Any ties that don't achieve 4 names, then we'll have to rerun for those that tie. Is that okay?
Yep.
And I'll do it in alphabetical order, at least that's simple.
And presumably we don't have to use all 4 of our
You do not
votes.
you don't have to.
use all 4. No, no. Are you okay, Councillor Breen, to start?
I'm just making a note.
And when I come to each name, up to 1 minute, you can talk why you might think you're the best or a suitable candidate. So there's some capacity to put forward why you think it might be suitable. Okay? Yes? So the first candidate is Councillor D. Carter. Do you want to say any words just for a few seconds?
Yes, a few words. Yes. I currently do look after 5 person in the houses. I do the rest of the weekly shopping, visiting them. I think more on behalf of volunteering for the age concern. So they call me if they need me, essentially. And I feel I have worked, my current one of my part-time job, I'm looking after houses for about 52 properties. So I'm the office manager for them, but on part-time basis. Just so I've got a lot of interest looking after elderly people in this community.
Thank you very much. Short and succinct. Would anybody like to vote for Councillor D. Carter?
Sorry. Jeff, have you got your card, kids?
You didn't check it out?
Yeah.
Lee Ripley, Nick Brown, Sam Woodcock, Mark Moorhouse, Sarah Bennett,
Right. Councillor
Everyone
Rawlinson,
put
were
their
you
cards in,
voting?
please. I just want to count I've got enough people.
Were you voting for Councillor D. Carter?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Is that
Okay.
you have?
You were voting for Ned?
Well,
Oh, I've only got 8. Who have I missed? Sorry, can you hold your cards
Could you
again,
show
please?
again, please? There are 9.
Is it 9?
Oh, you're voting for yourself?
Yeah. Oh, Dean Marie.
And 9.
Oh yes. No. Yeah, no, I've got council cards.
No, D. D.
Yeah,
Myself.
Danielle and
I've got key
oh,
cards.
okay. Right. Can you show them again, please?
Oh,
So, read them out.
Yes.
Councillor Mallet, Councillor Tomlins, Councillor Ripley, Councillor Marie, Councillor Franklin, with 2 Councillor Carters.
total of 9.
Jeff Franklin, sorry, that's
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Councillor. No, I'm CS. Alphabetical order.
Yes.
Councillor P. Carter.
Oh, good evening. Yeah, so I guess from my point of view, I've spent the last 2 years as the mayor, so I've built up very strong friendships with the events that take place there at both Christmas and Easter, and more importantly, as any previous mayor will know, about the actual bun run ceremony as well. So I know quite a few of the inhabitants by name for the matters there. Also, over the past 2 years, when they've had a number of issues, they've actually reported their issues to me by their chair, and I've actually picked up on issues to do with roads and drainage and the trees along the front as well that regularly come down and things like that. So I've undertaken a large number of services to make sure that the elderly, a lot of people don't know that the area where all the trees are, the leaves fall down, and neither Dover District Council or Kent County Council can be bothered to sweep the leaves up, and you've got very elderly people trying to get in and out there as well. So I've undertaken quite a lot of liaison with the inhabitants of the St Bart's there. I'll also occasionally go to the chapel there. It's quite an early start, but they have a very nice service there, so I know their chaplain very well. So I feel, all in all, I know quite a large number of people there by their first name. So if I was voted in, I would be on a head start to actually work with the people there. So,
Thank you, Councillor Carter. Any votes for Councillor P. Carter?
can I vote for myself?
Yeah. So that is councillors D. Carter, Jeff Franklin, Dean Marie.
Sorry, Dean, are you voting?
Yes, I did, yes.
Sorry.
Is that correct? Sorry. Sorry, would you mind holding your cards from the camera? Thank you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Yeah, I get 7 too.
Thank you very much. Okay, so myself, I'm number 3 on the list. So my interest is very much from, this was an issue that came across the doorstep with myself and Councillor Breen when we were canvassing for the election, and a number of concerns were raised with us by more than one resident regards the charity. I spent a lot of time with Councillor Gray investigating the circumstances around the charity. So some of the work in terms of the challenges came from myself and Councillor Gray. Governance is my forte, and the key thing for me is actually being independent and outside the structure, but being resolute in terms of challenging anything in terms of the town council's perspective. So that's why I would be interested in it, rather than keeping the status quo as it is. So, strange question, but would anybody like to vote from the in terms of membership?
Yourself.
Thank you.
11. Sorry, would everyone mind just holding their cards in the air, so thank you. 11. Do you agree that?
Include yours?
I did.
Yep.
I'll just check with Councillor Green. Yes.
11, correct,
Thank
yes.
Thank you. Councillor Mallet.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Long-term Sandwich resident, as I didn't need to say that, I think I'll know that. I must admit, I don't know that much about the Sandwich United charity, more than I've been able to pick up by reading about it. I know there's a lot of confrontational comments that come out, and I've avoided them. I know the people, or I say many, some of those who are already representatives on as trustees, and I count some of them as friends, some of them as just acquaintances. I think my general approach is non-confrontational, is to talk, listen, and understand, and I tend towards slow and considered change where change is necessary. So I think as a representative from the council, while I wouldn't be going into action straight away, I think I can potentially have some influence eventually, because I think that having too much influence straight away, you put people's backs up, because clearly it is well established, well entrenched, and one has to have a light touch. Thank you.
Votes for Councillor Mallet.
Sorry, would you mind holding your cards? 12. I'll make that 12, Councillor Green.
Indeed. Okay. Councillor Marie.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. After speaking to a couple of colleagues here just a minute ago, I'm going to withdraw my name from the race. I do feel it's the right thing to do, considering I'm so close to quite a few of the trustees there. It would be unfair for me to be there. I feel it would be a bit biased, so I'm going to withdraw my name.
That's appreciated. Thank you very much. Councillor Anderson.
Yes, I think this council is to be congratulated on having so many good candidates. I do think this is important. I think the workings of Sandwich United Charity are a bit mysterious, to put it mildly, and I would like to get involved in making their activities much more transparent. And I should add that some of you may know that I have been in my retirement, which has now been 20 years, and that's how long I've lived in Sandwich, the chair of a really quite large voluntary organisation. On retirement, I was appointed to be chair of a voluntary organisation located in Bermondsey in South East London called Moorhouse Association, which it's not a housing association, it's a settlement, and it delivers services which Southwark Borough Council was really not interested in developing because they were so edgy. Moorhouse Association, when I was chair, and I was chair for 6 years, delivered youth services dealing with victims of domestic violence, services for people with learning disabilities and general community development projects. And it had a turnover while I was chair of about 1.5 million a year. So I am quite used to engaging with the voluntary sector. I was chair for 6 years, and then I was a trustee for a further 2. And I decided that I no longer had anything really very substantial to offer, and that's why I withdrew. I've also been the trustee of a large funding charity, the British Salon Trust, which, given that it funds projects on the West Bank and in Gaza, was continuously encountering the charity commission. We were always reading down the necks to find out what we were up to, and we always passed their tests. So I would like to, and as you all know, I'm a trustee of the Jubilee Centre now, so I would like to get engaged with this charity. But I do feel that my experience in these 2 other directions would be useful.
Thank you. Votes for Councillor Auditor.
I'll make that 12. Can I just double check?
12,
1, 2, 3,
12.
4. It is, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm just reminding Councillor Green that they were voted all 4 times. That's what I wanted to check.
Nobody has voted. I can give you Danielle Carter voted twice, Paul Carter twice, Emmett Zucker 3 times, Jeff Franklin twice, Dean Marie 4, Lynn Ripley 4, William Fortescue 3, Martin Pennington 3, Claire Anderson 3, Vicky Tomlins 3, Simon Mallet 4, Nick Gray 3, Mark Moorhouse 4, myself 3 times, Councillor Wiles 4 times, Councillor Black 4 times.
I voted 3. Sorry, I only voted 3 times.
I voted for.
Yeah, I was going to say,
I was I don't know exactly how I voted.
What's the result of this to me? That's what I want to know.
You voted for Paul. You calm down. You're talking short. He's going to relay his freedoms.
I voted for Paul, for Simon, and Claire. I didn't vote, so I've only had 3 votes.
Do you want me to repeat my votes?
Sorry?
Do you want me to repeat my votes?
Yes,
I voted
please.
for, it was Emmett, Simon, Claire and Danielle.
Emmett? Oh, right, okay, sorry. It's still 11.
We're good, we're good.
Yeah.
Thank you. So we have got 4 names that have scored above the remainder. They are
Councillor Danielle Carter, Councillor Emmett Chuka, Councillor Simon Mallet and Councillor Anderson.
okay. And on the basis that Councillor Simon Mallet and Councillor Claire Anderson scored 12 each, which was the highest, they're the 2 names that will volunteer with the 4 names put forward. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. We have one more agenda item. Do we want 5-minute break?
Yeah, because it's a bigger item.
It is a big one, so we'll
we
take
have 5 minutes, please.
Yeah, 5 minutes, please. Reconvene.
Got the keys anyway.
Thank you.
Is this a lock-in, is it?
Yes.
I hope not.
No, no.
I've
where's
got
the
work. I've got work at 5 in the morning, so hurry up.
Okay, if we can move on to agenda item 20, the final one of tonight, which is attachment 21, Fishergate update report. This was discussed at F&GP last week, so I've asked the property manager just to give a very quick overview and to explain why we've got it here today. So you can take that away, William.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. So, as Mr. Mayor said, we discussed it in detail last week. Just quickly run through this with you, and then I will take obviously any questions. So, first of all, just to say, the hybrid model was always my way of looking at this property. And one of the reasons why that I didn't actually touch upon last time, I will mention it now, is Historic England will want us to enter into a management agreement with them for the ongoing maintenance of that property. Now, what does that mean to us? Well, what it means is that we've got to be able to get access in there to do work without causing any disruption to tenants that are in there. So a hybrid model gives us that flexibility. Okay. The reason why I looked at holiday lets, and I believe it was Councillor Black that said, fine, talking about how much income, but what is the actual profit?
Yeah, profit.
Yeah, which is obviously what is the bottom line. So I did my research, spent months on this, weeks maybe, and yeah, the holiday let option doesn't work. Okay, that is what I've concluded. So I say I haven't, I wanted it to work. I did want it to work. It didn't work. So I've looked at the other options. So I want the hybrid model. I believe, and I'm sure you will support me in this, that the Maritime Museum, with accommodation, say, with extra space on the second floor that we can use to generate some additional income, is the way forward with this. But there are still steps that we have to do, because we're still not sure of what this is going to cost, let alone where we're going to get the money from. So grant funding, I said, I've looked at it. It's an ongoing, it's still live, I'm still dealing with it, but they want an answer. They want to know, what are you going to do with the property? They don't want holiday lets, of course they don't. They actually want to know what we're going to do, what we can bring to the table. So that's where I'm at. We're going to look at it, we're going to have to do some exploration work there and really get down, deep dive, I think is the saying, into what we're going to need to do at this property. Where we can actually, no point me saying, yes, it's going to need this, it's going to need that. Let's actually look at it. So we've got to do that. The other point I was going to make is I want this to be a community project where members of the community can come together. And I can lead that with, and I think it'd be very exciting. So I think that's where we're at. I think we got to the stage last Wednesday where I think that people were agreeing with me. There was one sort of final point, which was I was looking at making some extra money, but looking at using that address for companies and organisations and charities that they can use as their address at a sort of a monthly fee. But I will come back to that at another point when I've actually got the data. So that's it. I'm obviously, any questions that people have, if their surname ends with a U. Yes.
Thank you very much, Julie. Yes, I do have a question, because I very strongly support what you're suggesting, this hybrid model. But I did wonder whether you had got any information on what the take-up might be, just supposing we tried to run it as a holiday let, because what I feel is absent is any market research at all. And my gut is that actually the demand to stay in the Fishergate would be very limited. It's not suitable for older people. I speak as one. It's not suitable for families, and it's. I know that Councillor Wiles often talks about landmark trust. We've stayed in landmark trust properties. They're not located in the middle of a town overlooking a car park. They're quirky, admittedly, but they're often in the middle of nowhere, which is in itself a problem. You drive down rutted lanes and all the rest, but you get to somewhere which is beautiful. And I just don't think this would work. That's my gut, but I just wondered if there was any market research to back that up.
Oh, plenty of market research. Document there where I've actually looked at it, and that's what I've actually come to that same conclusion. There is a limited appeal. Bear in mind, I was looking at doing the 3 nights rather than a week. I think 3 nights is, would work better than a whole week. But even so, with the 3-night model, it didn't work.
Thank you very much. We've discussed this in great detail at F&GP. It's been here 3 times. I would like to propose that all 3 recommendations are accepted. Thank you very much.
I'll second that.
Could I just ask that we're absolutely clear of the monetary impact that we're talking about here, because the proposals are for expenditure on exploratory work of about £7,000. Am I right, Julian?
My recommendations are, it doesn't mention that in this, within my 3 points.
So can you clarify, so in terms of, I understand this is moving to the next stage of reviewing it as its future. It's not about delivering the future, it's about the next stage.
Yes.
Is there a financial impact for the council to do what you're asking, and what is
with exploration work, it would be, again, if it's a community project, it would be less money, but we are still looking in the region of £7,000.
And have we got the budget available and allocated for that to be undertaken?
No. Mr Mayor, I know it's declared an interest, but there should be grants available. We're doing all these work, English, everything. Even for the research, looking at the structure, there should be grants available for them. May I just respond on that point? Without us telling them what we're going to do, they're not going to we can't go down that road. So as soon as we can tell them, there are other options that could be available to us. But exactly, Councillor Franklin, that yes, but once we know what we're doing, then we can actually then go and look at the grants. But yeah, that's exactly that.
So what I would ask is, picking up on Councillor Green's point, I don't think, because there isn't a financial commitment made in this has to be presented specifically around that. But that doesn't stop us voting on these 3 this evening, I would suggest. So we need to clarify that point, Councillor Green.
Yeah, okay, thank you. And in terms of getting some drawings done, which I think you would need to support applications and so forth, that comes with a cost, doesn't it?
Yes, it does, but we've actually got a lot of the drawings already. Right. So we're using sort of some versions of what was done before. So the actual cost, I need 2 elevation drawings, it's £850.
So Councillor Wiles?
So when this was discussed at FGP, I made the point that I thought, I've spoken to Julian about this, so he knows my views. I think the occupancy levels are pessimistic, so it's 75 days a year, which is 20% of the year, 1/5 of the year occupied, and the costs are pessimistic as well. So I think the holiday option is possibly still an option, and in response to Councillor Anderson, the Landmark Trust owns the Pugin building in Ramsgate, which is right in the town, and it received National Heritage Lottery funding for that, so there is the possibility of funding for this property, and that also has a spiral staircase up to the tower. But at the end of the day, to some extent, I don't care whether it's holiday lets or a museum or that we sell it. We just need to make a decision to get on with this property, because it's been standing empty for much too long, and we need to crack on with this. As long as there's agreement with the Heritage Trust and we can come to agreement about them meeting running costs and other things, occupancy, and making it available to the public, then I'm happy to go along with that option.
I raised this before, but I went for the museum option, and having explained how it might work to get a disabled person up the stairs and down the stairs, I have very grave reservations that that's going to work, and that the fire painful one they have to read out. Which, sorry to put cold water on you.
Okay. So, going back to Councillor Green's point, we do not have the money available to do this work at the moment. We have £3,000 approximately left in our budget available unallocated. I can't see how we can vote for potentially 7,000 or something more without clear recommendations in terms of costs around this work. That's my personal view, and we'll come back to that, Councillor.
Oh yeah, thank you. As we said at F&GP, until we have a purpose for the building, we can't apply for the grants, so we won't know if we're getting the money. So once we've voted tonight, the property manager can then apply for the grants, and then we can go ahead. We don't need to know about the technicalities of whether we need stair lifts or chair lifts. We don't need to know about holiday lets or anything like that. F&GP have done this. If you trusted your fellow councillors and these officers, like I do, this is a very simple decision. It's a very simple decision. Somebody here has put in an extraordinary amount of effort and time to get this through, and all he's asking for is the recommendation on the usage. It's just the usage. We don't need to know what door handles we're having or what windows. The usage. The proposal's there. I've put that forward, and it's up to the chair.
I agree. But it's without a financial commitment from our budget.
Indeed,
as it stands.
that is
That's
correct.
the point we
Yeah,
made
that
on.
I'd accept that amendment.
Yeah, it needs to be made clear then that we agree this in principle. So we agree this in principle, and if we can't get the funding, it comes back to the table. It's simple.
Agree. Okay, so can we go to a vote on that? If we've all clarified that.
Sorry, but do you need the £850 to be able to get the other drawings done to apply for the funding, Julia? You need the £850.
Thank you, Councillor.
Yes. Yeah, well, we can do that.
Okay.
Under delegated powers.
Yes. Okay, so just to clarify, we've got 3 recommendations in front of us. We are committing £850 or thereabouts to support you in relation to the ability to make grant applications.
Correct.
Yep.
Yeah.
So on that basis, we can go through the 3 recommendations. First is to the future use of the Fishergate is a hybrid model that would include a maritime museum and visitor centre on the first floor and space to hire out on the second floor. Councillor Carter's already proposed it. Somebody happen to second it? Councillor Pennington, we go to the vote on that. 1 abstention.
2 abstentions.
2 abstentions. Apologies. Second one is that the property manager can work with Sandwich Heritage Harbour CIO to finalise a joint venture arrangement which would be brought back to the councils for their final decision. So again, that's about principal agreement to engage. Proposed. Councillor Anderson, thank you. Votes?
Can we vote again? Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, that's it.
Unanimous? Yep. Finally, Fishergate could also be used as a postal address, registered address for companies, organisations and charities, and the property manager has always said he's going to investigate that.
Yes.
So this is again about principal agreement, research required, seeking support to explore this as an opportunity. Proposed. I'll second. And we're all supporting except for 1 abstention.
1 abstention.
Thank you. Right. Apologies, it's 20 to 10, but we're finished. Agenda item 21, date of next full town council meeting, 29th of September 2025, unless we need to call an extraordinary meeting in between. Thank you very much and good night.